Hey everyone, it's Keith. Welcome back to another episode of our CIO Wisdom Share. Today, I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this conversation. We're talking to Jon Harding, who's going to talk to us about his thinking about enabling business growth. So with that, Jon, well, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. Can you share a few words about, just give the viewers a little context about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for inviting me, Keith. So I'm the long-term global CIO of the Conair Corporation, which is a worldwide consumer products company. Well-known brands include Cuisinart, Scunci, the ladies' hair accessory, Conair personal care products, and Babyliss, high-end fashion products. I've been in this role for a while. During that time, the company has essentially doubled in size and expanded to be in about more than 30 countries today.
Okay, great. And so I know you have a particular interest in growing the business. Maybe can you share just a couple words, like how do you think, when you think about growing the business, how do you kind of define that?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of ways one can think about that. You can think about, well, let's improve the efficiency of our back office processes. That's where many of us were some years ago. Let's think about helping to get into new areas. So, for example, we've expanded geographically, globally, we've expanded through acquisition, etc. But I think ultimately it for me has crystallized as revenue. How can myself and the IT team help the rest of the business to grow revenue? And I hate that expression, by the way, IT and the business. What other function in businesses has to sort of justify themselves constantly as not being separate or being separate. So yes, I prefer to refer to it as IT and the rest of the business. So how can we collaborate with the rest of the business to increase revenue would be my definition. And of course, that sub point would be that has to be profitable revenue growth.
You're kind of alluding to it, but how do you decide what growth or what the growth looks like, or where do we go initiate projects to enable growth?
Yeah, so a lot of it is through collaboration with the rest of the C-suite, the leaders of our business units worldwide. I think also, though, at the same time, looking within our networks as to what's happening in the industry. Now, I've been in consumer products a long time. I'm a member of several sort of advisory or networking type groups, both within pure consumer goods manufacturing and also retail. And I think traditionally by taking part in those kind of events, when you could still go to events in person now because it's all virtual, you could sort of discern sometimes what the trends were, what trends were in the industry. In our case, because we're partnered closely with retail, what trends are in retail. And the most obvious one for us, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on as a case study, is around direct-to-consumer selling.
When you collaborate with like the other C-suite executives in your business, I mean, are they open to these discussions? Are they open to sharing ideas and pointing to their problems and disclosing that to you?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of it depends on the relationship, and it can take a while to develop that. And I think there has to be a consistent track record of delivery on requirements they have, and day to day, even as simple as can you get so and so please as a special case, such a thing, those kind of things. I think building the relationship, once you have that open relationship, it's easier, but not constantly, but occasionally say, hey, what about this, what about that, or what are you guys thinking about? That's the first thing. So there's that informal aspect, and then there's the formal aspect of being at the table during executive meetings and just hearing what's going on. Where are we having challenges with supply chain or product availability or selling challenges? And sometimes that just sparks ideas. Sometimes it doesn't, So I think it's a case of always having one ear open to, oh, there's something we might be able to help with.
And what does this look like in the real world? I mean, it's like, hey, we need to do growth. So then you go out and do like a project to execute something, or is it kind of just kind of a company-wide effort where you got the technology and C-suite and you're all working together to kind of just
Yeah.
move the business up?
I think it varies. I think it's all of those things. Sometimes there are, you know, all embracing programs of work that cross the C-suite, which currently you would call a digital transformation. That's certainly what we're in. In the past 2 years ago, I'm dating myself now, you might have called it business process re-engineering. There are those sort of wide scale activities. And then also there's just trying out a concept. Sometimes, I've had occasions where I've approached a small group who I think have got the sort of right stuff in terms of a dynamic approach to be able to say, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? We can help with a bit of funding, we can help with project management and try something like a proof of concept. And once we've had some success with one group, then it's always easier to go to the next group and say, the next business unit and say, well, what about this? Sometimes it flies there, sometimes it doesn't. So to me, it can be anything from a small proof of concept with a small function inside one business unit to an all-embracing digital transformation.
And so when you set out to achieve these business goals, I mean, what are the different types of ingredients or components that you kind of think fundamentally have to go into this? Like, for example, I mean, technology clearly is an obvious one, but you also looking at people's skills or people education or process. I mean, how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, I certainly experience has taught me to look at the people first. Who are the people who are going to end up using this technology and or this new process? And do we think that they're going to go for it? Every organization has levels of resistance to change, and so you have to have had some experience usually with the business unit as to how likely are they to a start the project, but B, also finish it. There's so many things. It's easy to start things. Sometimes it's hard to get them over the line. And sometimes that's because people already have too much on their plate. They say yes to a lot of things, but then don't follow through, and they're ourselves included on the IT side. So I think a lot of it's about carefully thinking about the people's situation at the start, and also keep an eye on all the way through, is this really going the way we expected? And if it's not, why not? And then secondly, does it involve wide-scale process change? If it does, and it's a change to our operating processes, for example, is it something we can actually physically achieve inside our warehouses or inside our supply chain? If it's not that, I think ultimately then you end up with, well, can we get the technology? Now, I must admit, I don't think I've ever had a project fail because we couldn't find the technology. It's usually on the people and process side of it.
On top of all this, you do have a day job, right?
Yes.
Running your, how do you balance?
Yeah, it's well, first off, you have to have a great team. I'm very lucky that I've got a lot of people, more than half of whom have been in the company before me, who do a great job day to day. And overall, our run situation is good. Having said that, though, one has to make it very clear to everybody that their number one priority is day to day running. So I don't want to ever get into a situation where somebody says, we didn't ship X million dollars of goods yesterday because we were too busy working on this shiny new project, or even worse, replacing those servers. So it's definitely a case of balancing the two, making people sure everyone understands that if there's a problem, that's what we should focus on. Other than that, though, let's keep moving on these projects. So it's a constant balancing act, and I check in with each of my direct reports separately once a week, and principally the conversation is around projects and change, with an eye out for, well, hang on a minute, why are we not making progress? Oh, well, there was a problem. Okay, fair enough. So it's a total balance.
Hope you heard a few things that triggered some new thinking for you. We do these conversations on IT topics weekly, so please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get updates on new content, as well as you can post comments and, more importantly, suggest topics that you'd like us to address. you can see that we have some pretty amazing resources. So please let us know how we can help you on your upcoming digital transformation and enterprise IT projects. Thanks very much. Until next time.